Yeah,
So.
maybe. Good afternoon. This Township of Selwyn Committee of Adjustment meeting, Tuesday, November 25th, 2025 will come to order. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of the committee, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general truth thereof? Seeing none, please note that in the minutes. We have an application that we're going to be dealing with, a 1725, and I'll turn it over to our planner. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just for the preamble, for the standard preamble here, the Committee of Adjustment is holding a public hearing in accordance with Section 45 of the Planning Act in order to consider one application today for relief from bylaw 2009-21, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of Selwyn. The prescribed notice of public hearing was provided via prepaid first-class mail to all residents within a 60-meter radius of the property, subject to the application, as well as by a sign posted on the property. The notice was also available on our website. The notice circulation complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. If a person or public body would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Selwyn, but does not make oral submissions at a public hearing or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment before the committee gives or refuses to give approval to the application, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Selwyn in respect of the proposed variances before the committee gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make written request to the Secretary or Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, providing your name and address or email address. The application before us today is A17-25. This is for 798 Simcoe Street in Bridgenorth, Smith Ward. The proposal in this case is to construct a roughly 585 square foot attached garage with an open deck to the rear, as well as to add a couple of new decks to the existing dwelling, being roughly 338 square feet and 56 square feet at the rear of the dwelling. So three total open decks at the rear of the building are being added. So the release being requested are to reduce the high water setback from 30 meters to 11.5 meters to the deck at the rear of the new garage, to reduce it from 30 meters to 10.96 meters to the deck at the northerly end of the existing dwelling, to reduce the minimum setback from 30 meters to 13.87 meters to the deck at the southern end of the existing dwelling, and to reduce the minimum high water mark setback from 30 meters to 13.18 meters to the new garage, as well as to increase the maximum total lot coverage of all buildings and structures on the lot from 20 to 23%. The Conservation Authority has provided comments stating no concern, but permits will be required at building permit stage from them. Alderville First Nation has submitted comments recommending an archaeological assessment for the site. I will note that this site, the previous owner of the property, didn't follow through on a previous minor variance for redevelopment of the property. So the archaeological assessment has been completed and no artifacts were found at this location. That assessment has been obviously resubmitted with this application. And the County Public Works has provided comments of no concern. I find the application meets the 4 tests of the minor variance, and I recommend the application for approval.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, or Madam Deputy Clerk, is there anyone here for or against this application?
We have no one here virtually for this application.
Okay, is there anyone in attendance for or against this application? Seeing no one, I will bring it to committee. Are there any questions?
Thank you through Chair Sinis.
Member Bill.
Thank you. Just a question, not so much about the the application, but more around building in the high water mark setback area of 30 meters. Majority of this house would be in that high water mark. Are there restrictions or constraints on the actual building that sits in that plane with respect to if there is a 100-year flood, which seems to happen more often than 100 years these days? Is there any construction differences between something that's not in that plane versus something that's in that plane to prevent the house from being underwater?
So, through you, Madam Chair, there's two policies at play here. There's the 30-meter general setback from the high water mark, which is just a high water mark setback, and then there's also a floodplain regulation. That floodplain, it may not necessarily be the 30-meter, it could be less, or it could be more. The 30 meters just generally to preserve a natural heritage buffer from between the lake and the dwelling. There's no real, other than you meet setbacks and get the minor variance for expansion of your dwelling within the 30-meter setback. That's the process. We don't allow further encroachment, so you can only ever expand laterally and not encroach towards the lake beyond the existing setback to the lake. The floodplain regulation, yes, under planning policy, generally speaking, it's very difficult to get approvals if you have to go through planning approval to get sign off on developing further within the floodplain. If a site has, in some cases, where there's zoning, like in an upland property that has as of right zoning for development, say like a rural residential zone where we haven't zoned a property EP or a portion of it EP related to the floodplain, it would just be subject to conservation authority permits. And then they would put in stipulations for flood protection at that location, even if it wasn't a floodplain. The conservation authority has sort of an aside going down our comprehensive zoning bylaw review that may be coming up. Once our official plan is approved, the conservation authority sort of provided preliminary indication that they might comment that they would like to see us zone floodplains, all floodplains as environmental protection zones, which we don't currently do. So that may be a change coming in the future, that there would be additional restrictions on developing in floodplains through zone.
Just follow up, Chair. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, you look at the village of Lakefield is mostly in the floodplain, or good parts of it are in the floodplain already, so that have had building put on them over the years, so.
Yeah, those are the historic or.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure, but there's lots of property there that are neighboring properties to those those homes that are already built in the floodplain. So just a question. Thank you for the answer.
All right, are there any other questions with regards to this application? Seeing none, I'm looking for someone to move the recommendation. Member Henry and seconded by Member Boyko. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have committee of adjustment meeting minutes of September the 23rd. Can I have someone move those? Member Black, Member Coolis, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And I'll need a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is December the 9th, 2025. Member Henry and Member Black, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. All right. Proceed directly to our regular council. So this Township of Selwyn regular council meeting for Tuesday, November 25th, 2025 will come to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so that council, staff, and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. You. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we will go to the minutes of November the 11th, 2025. Any errors or omissions? If not, I'm looking for someone to move those minutes. Councillor Boyko, seconded by Councillor Poulos, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. Is there any discussion of the minutes? No, we will go to our first deputation, and I just want to let all the deputations know we have 10 minutes. We have a very stocked meeting today. There's a lot on the agenda, so we want to move through it quickly if we can. Our first deputation is Jeanette Lovey-Smith from Autonomy Region Conservation. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you for having me to speak about the budget. And so I know it is in your package by Your Worship and Council. So I'm just going to move through some of the slides if I can. So I'm sorry, I've been doing, right, my apologies here. There we go. So the overview, in general, we have proposed an increase of 7.4, and just for context, that's 115,000 across 8 member municipalities. And what that includes is a 0% operating budget and an 7.4 increase on the capital. The capital has not been on the levy in the last 2 years. We have been using in-year services and grants to fund our capital. And this year we have proposed for 2026 a number of savings that we found in the operating budget. And I'm going to apologize deeply for the next slide. My apologies, because I was just at Autonomy South Monaghan. And so please, my apologies for that. Just there on Monday, actually. And so what I can say is the apportionment is correct. The title on the slide is not. The apportionment is correct. And so that is what it is for 2026. And that represents an increase of $19,990. As most of you are aware, our CVA comes from the Ministry of Environment, Parks and Conservation, and we apply that across our member municipalities. So just a little bit of context for how we came to our budget. There was a little bit of process and some work. But back in April, the board received a report around some of our opportunities and some of our gaps. And that was really helpful for the board to make some decisions to move to our next step, which was preparing a 3-year operating budget. And that was received at June. And that was the first time as an organization we took on sort of looking at what a 3-year operating budget might look like. And that then built into our operating budget that is being proposed. And so these are the highlights, if you will, for the budget that again has the 0% increase. This is the same levy for 2025, the operating. We've reduced our permitting fees by about $12,000 to $25,000. And that's really because the volume across all the conservation authorities are actually decreasing with that. We saw, you might have seen the same with your building permits, but we saw a real peak during COVID, and then it's now coming back and plateauing out. We've also reduced our external consulting fees. So this is where we had entered into a shared services agreement with other conservation authorities, mostly Ganaraska. And we're now able to bring those services in-house in terms of things. That's the reference to the transitioning back to some of those positions. We also are highlighting that we are not drawing on reserves to support our operating budget, which has been done in the past. And the capital budget, so again, this is what's really on the levy. And so we are looking to decommission some assets. So here in Township of Selwyn, that's an important part because you can think about Selwyn Beach Conservation Area and that old gatehouse that is sitting there. It really does need to be taken down because it's no liability. We also do have some old, what we refer to as pit toilets that are out there since we've built the new washroom. So those do need to be decommissioned. We're planning on doing that with a combination of some of our own in-house services and then some contractor services. But really taking care of those assets that are out in the field that need to be cleaned up to reduce any of the further risk that we have. And then we're also proposing to buy some equipment. The authority has actually very little equipment in terms of things. So this is really what that 115,000 looks like, is again, some decommissioning of our assets, some equipment, some signage. We always build in some work around our dam maintenance. And for the first time, we have a contribution to reserves. It's a small, overall small, but it's actually a good opportunity for us to start that process. And I was asked by the board to include in this just the context of what our reserves actually look like today. So our capital reserve is a very small reserve currently, and that's our operating reserves that the authority has currently. And I'm really sorry. And so again, in your council package, this is the apportionment table. Apportionment is just another word for tax levy. And it has all of the member municipalities. It has the CVA from the province. That is built up. That is a combination of population and assessment. And then the category 1, 2, and category 1 and 3s that are actually on the tax levy and the total. I'd also like just to highlight that we are moving into our performance indicators. We've had many years of having performance objectives as an organization, and we've reported on those quarterly. And Your Worship, you were certainly part of the board when that got established, which actually not a lot of conservation authorities have those. And so that was a great starting place for us. We've now managed, we want to grow them and move them more into some of those KPIs. This is really the direction also that the province wants to go in. We decided that we needed to do this prior to that, but this is actually a good fit in that way. And so we really can start to measure in a more meaningful way our efficiencies of our programs and our services that we provide. So that's something that we're doing in 2026. And I'm really not very good at this. I am, apparently technology is not my thing. It's the wrong way. I'm going the wrong way. Totally. I'm really sorry. I'm just totally messed it up. Oh, that would be fantastic help because you really don't want me here all day. We're going to go to the ice storm because slide. So there's a collage of, I'm really sorry for the technology there, of pictures. I know that the ice storm also really was a significant event for Selwyn Township. It was also for us. We did actually put in an insurance claim to help pay for those costs. And so over across the watershed, we had a little more than $250,000 worth of damage that happened. And through cleaning up some of that over time with our own resources, but also the insurance claim, we were able to do it. And we just finished all of that work in October. So it was a significant event for all of us. Thank you. Next slide. And I do have a few links. They're not really great things to put into the PowerPoint or handout in a paper document or hard copy. But I do encourage you to have if you have some time and you're interested, our strategic plan that the board did approve. The theme is water, and you can see that theme throughout all of our objectives. And then also our annual report. It has a lot of great statistics. It's a GIS, ArcGIS. So you can go in and zoom in on Selwyn. You can see some statistics there. And then also our permitting standards report. And that's a provincial requirement as a OREG 4124 that all conservation authorities need to do a permitting. So those are on our website if you care to hear a little bit more about our reporting. Thank you. Next slide. I think that's it. And once again, my apologies for my lack of technical skills there.
No worries, you're not the first person that's been at that podium that's had the problem, so better you than me. Anyway, are there any questions, Councillor?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sanis. Thank you for the presentation. It's nice to see work moving forward. However, I think the province has put a bit of a kibosh on your plans and the work that you're bringing forward to us today. As once the regional boundaries are redefined of the current 36 conservation authorities that we have in the 7 regions, as Bill 68 will probably become established next month. We're going to have a lot of impacts on our on consolidating governance and the impacting municipal influence, the funding available. You have a crystal ball that we can look into and tell me what the future may hold for us here.
Your worship, I actually, I wish I did. I was just commenting to the mayor that I had an opportunity to, in my own research, to look through some of the archive files that we have at the authority. And the mayor is referenced many times back in the day, giving speeches and advocating, meeting with ministers around the amalgamation that was considered 20 years ago, at least. So it was insightful that was done then. We are in a different place now, different provincial government. It would be fair to say that some sort of consolidation will happen. That has been a clear message. How that will happen in terms of what the specific lines on those consolidated boundaries might be is still being discussed, and there's a possibility that some of that might change with some of the public input. That input is still open until December 22nd. The second component of that, which is actually not getting a lot of conversation, is that the province is actually creating an agency, another agency. So once upon a time, conservation authorities actually had a branch under the Ministry of Natural Resource and Forestry at the time. And then that branch disappeared. It's now coming back again in terms of an oversight branch. So it's the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. And so that agency is responsible for establishing standards that each of the conservation authorities or the consolidation will be responsible for. So there's a lot of change happening there. What they have been consistent in telling us is that there will be municipal representation. There will be local offices. Our staff are going to stay because we do cherish the relationship that we have built with all of our member municipalities. And we just actually heard of a discussion earlier in the meeting prior to this around the input and the collaboration that needs to happen. So There's a lot of discussion. The board did have a discussion on what a response might be, but we're still actually evolving that, as we speak today.
Thank you for the very detailed response with what information obviously none of us have. Appreciate that. And I guess we'll just watch the paradox of bureaucracy, where the only thing that saves us from bureaucracy is its inefficiency. Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for having me, Your Worship and Council.
Thank you. I would like a motion, please, to receive the presentation. Deputy Mayor Black and Councillor Boyko, all in favor. Carrie, thank you. And now we have Bruce, thank you, Bruce Bell Chambers, who's up to talk to us about the Lakefield Trail Stewardship Committee. The Lakefield Trail too, I'm sure.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. In 1990, you want me to use this probably. And I do have people in front of me, a quorum that will correct me if I'm incorrect. In 1998, the Village of Lakefield created the Special Events Committee who helped counter government cutbacks. Under this committee, the Lakefield Trail Subcommittee was formed, and it quickly went into high gear when it received a $200,000 federal Millennium Grant. A large amount of money was needed to be raised for this project to proceed. Fundraising was very successful, though people were concerned with how the trail would be maintained. Doris Carbath from our trail committee researched and developed a trail maintenance stewardship plan with the Village of Lakefield. On June 22nd, 2000, it was signed. There it is. And it wasn't Angela Chittick, it was Jody Chittick's signature. Oh, and our stewardship committee came into existence. In this plan, governance and stewardship guidelines were laid out. The Lakefield Trail Stewardship Committee was just one part of this plan. 47 stewards maintained their specific section, monitored their specific sections of the trail. Then there was the Friends of the Trail. The Friends of the Trail were the most important part of the plan. They took ownership of the trail. They were the ones that donated their money and or their labor to make it happen. Later, Selwyn Parks and Recreation, when we amalgamated, their staff became the fourth pillar in this plan. Over the years, the four groups have worked together as a team. In your package, I don't have slides, I just have. In your package, you can see some of the ongoing maintenance that has been done over the years, but it is far from complete. Just going to mention a few things. Annually, most of the trees along the trail and in Isabel Morris Park are weeded, mulched, and maintained. The native plant garden is weeded 5 times from May to October. Our 3 little libraries are varnished, installed, and stocked with books from May to October. Weeds are moved from around the benches. The trail newsletter is produced. The boardwalk was maintained as needed. The shade shelter was maintained and painted. 30+ cyclist signs are painted on asphalt where needed around the village. Promotion and education, we do a Polderfest night hike every year, Earth Day hike, Family Paddle Day, and we go to many events in town to promote and recruit membership. And fundraising, we're always fundraising, mainly at local events. Past accomplishments. On a Saturday many years ago, 1,300 seedlings were planted along the shoreline of Hague and Imagine the Marsh area of the village. by 25 volunteers. The community advisor for Trees Canada was present, along with many politicians that day. I don't believe they planted many of the seedlings. Next, we planned and planted a native plant garden on both sides of Service Ontario to the power dam along the spillway. All the parking curbs on this stretch were purchased by the Stewardship Committee. This fulfilled a commitment to make this area safer after it being a tragic accident where 2 people had drowned when their car had driven through the fence in the spillway. We funded the construction of the section of trail from the old train station along the side of the Lakefield Restaurant to Queen Street. This included creating 6 new parking spaces. Approximate cost was $14,000. We funded most of the replacement of the small section of boardwalk on Water Street when there was construction on Water Street near the dam. Our cost, approximately $14,000. We also funded a 10-year project to save 50 ash trees on both sides of the river at a cost of $25,000. Over the years, we've installed 71 green benches in the village, so you can find a spot to sit down pretty much everywhere. And I've mixed close to 3 tons of concrete in my backyard in my wheelbarrow for the memorial plaques in town. This year, a small project saw us install pavers around the cherry trees at Service Ontario. This border finishes off this project aesthetically and retains the river stone. We installed 3 benches for recognition of committee members, including one that acknowledges our 25 years of volunteer service to Selwyn. We donated $10,000 to Selwyn to repair the Lakefield signs at SGS on along Water Street and at the Golden Years Club on Queen Street. And lastly, our last project, which was just finished about a week ago, we invested over $20,000 in trees to replace those destroyed by the derecho and the ice storm and those that were killed by the emerald ash borer. Over the past 25 years, we have gotten older and the number of volunteers keeps diminishing. This was greatly accelerated by COVID. The world changed. We have constantly put effort into recruitment of volunteers through our newsletters, days at the market, sidewalk sale, the jazz festival, hikes, paddle days, meet your match volunteer program, even hiring a social media and Instagram expert. We have had little success. It has been a great privilege to meet and work with all the great friends of the Lakefield Trail since 1998. Those friends have created the trail you see today. With fewer hands to help and more to do, it is becoming an impossible task. The current Lakefield Trail Stewardship Committee members will be stepping down / retiring as of December 31st, 2025. We do ask that the money that the township holds in our account be used for maintenance on the trail. In conclusion, I would like to extend a challenge to Selwyn Council. Over the many years of volunteering, I have noticed that many of our trail friends volunteer for a wide range of local groups. It is amazing how many groups there are across our township. They help the young and the old. I'm not mentioning any names because I'm sure I'd miss many of them. But they help the young and the old. They deal with food insecurities. They beautify our communities. They deal with transportation problems, getting people to medical appointments, allowing them to get their groceries, which allows them to continue to live in Selwyn. They raise funds for important projects and for family crises. They man our libraries and help with sports and on and on and on. I challenge council to find ways to acknowledge and support these groups so they continue their important work in our local communities. Through their efforts, they make Selwyn a better place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruce. And we all really appreciate everything that your group and all the groups do in our township to make it a better place to live, work and play. If there are a number of people that are stepping down from your group, I know that there was a terms of reference that was had with the township, and I would ask Janice what our next steps would be if it appears that a lot of the people that are with the stewardship committee are now retiring.
Excuse me, the all the members of the committee are stepping down.
All of them?
Yeah,
Okay.
of the current committee, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Thank you through you, Madam Mayor, for sure. There would have been in terms of reference, maybe more than one, from Bruce's
I don't
presentation
know after.
Yeah.
you know,
with the former Village of Lakefield and certainly the group that's been in place since 1988. The combination of groups has certainly, as Bruce has outlined, has done a lot of great work. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to extend the township's thanks and my thanks for all that work that you've done. I think at this point, really what we would need to do is regroup a little bit. We go back and look at, how those terms of reference were laid out and probably come back with a bit of a report to council just in terms of, okay, how do we move forward now in terms of what's the next committee or working group or whatever it's going to be? How is that going to be structured and how are we going to be able to support that group?
Thank you. And I also have a certificate that I'd like to present to you along with the rest of council to the stewardship committee members that are here. We'll go to questions from Councillor Boyko first, and any other members of the council.
And thank you through you, Mayor Sanis. Yes, something that council knows well is that I'm a great advocate for improving walkability. My support for trails, not only in Lakefield, but Ennismore and elsewhere in the township, and sidewalks. People got tired of me talking about sidewalks for a long while, but walkability is important. It's with respect to Lakefield, what we're talking about today, the beautification of the village, the health and happiness of the residents, the attracting of visitors, economic development is all part of walkability. I want to echo what the mayor and Janice have said, and thank you personally, Bruce, for your time and your work, your leadership, your passion, and your vision. And it's the vision that I want to base this question on. I know that there are people who have said that they are going to try to carry on with the work that the committee has done. You said that the committee is resigning, and I know that there are others that are going to be reforming in whatever configuration to move the work forward. But my question is this: with respect to the vision, as what Janice was hinting at, how do you believe the role of the township with respect to all of the work and all of the expense that the committee has done, the work that the committee has done, so therefore the township has not had to do, the expense that you have incurred, your committee has incurred and fundraised so that the township did not have to pay for those things. With all of that in mind, how do you envision, and can you inform the staff that is here in council, the new relationship going forward between the new committee and township?
Well, this is a different period. We grew up in the John F. Kennedy period. And now if we model ourselves after the current administration south of us, we're in trouble. We're doing what we can help our country, right? So we've done our best to recruit people and it hasn't worked out. And to replace what we do in a year, I think there would be at least one new staff person. Does that answer your question?
A township staff person?
Somebody, because I don't think currently because I work with them all the time, the Parks and Rec, with what they have now, wouldn't be able to maintain what we do. And I imagine it's needed in other areas of the township also, so maybe we could multiply it by 3 or 4.
Okay, so if I could, so what you were saying is with the work and everything that the committee done, even if the committee continues, and I know that there are people who want to continue the committee, that there will be more asked of the township.
Well, the problem was that back in the old days, we'd have on a work day at the beginning of the season, we'd have 20 or 30 people show up to help us. And currently we have less than 10 on a good day. So that means we only get a quarter of the trees mulched, so it ends up to our committee to do the rest.
Right.
And it's like a big weight hanging over our head to get everything done that meet our expectations of what should be done in Lakefield, so.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, when the last one that I showed up to when I was shoveling mulch, I was the youngest guy there, which tells you something. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through your worship. Thanks for the presentation, Bruce, and thank you and the Stewardship Committee for all the leadership that you provided. Lakefield's proud of the trail system that's been created there, and it's used by a lot of people year round. In fact, I've had the privilege of doing the spring cleanup with you the last number of years to get a chance to talk to volunteers and do a little physical work. It's really challenging, as you say, to find new volunteers these days. It's a different atmosphere, different climate today than we've had before with respect to younger people coming forward. We're seeing that challenge with other groups in the township already as well. I've been a strong advocate for taking a look at how we work with not-for-profit groups in this area. And, I think the township has to take a step back and look at a different strategy moving forward. The township does support these groups in many different ways, as we all know. But times have changed, and it's maybe a time to look at a different strategic role for the township, different commitment to supporting volunteers moving forward, and help with the advocacy around getting more volunteers with the different groups. So I'll leave it at that. And again, thank you for the 25 plus years. Your committee, your stewardship committee has taken care of this. My only hope is that with the municipality having to manage more of the workload, the thousands of hours that you've been put in, that it doesn't result in any loss to the great work that your group has already done in the township. Thank you for
Thank you.
your efforts.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Senes. Yes, again, on behalf of council, thank you for your presentation, but more importantly, the service that your group has done for our community. You definitely are correct with the JFK generation. It's, aging, I think I'm coming through on the cusp of it. And-
We're all wait here.
Fair enough. The sense of civic duty, as I was speaking with Deputy Mayor Black earlier before council started, seems to be waning, fortunately. And it's not just happening in our community. I've seen it happening beyond here, and having worked in other communities, I've seen that a lot of them are starting to embrace the challenge of youth unemployment and the volunteerism, JFK generation coming forward and having great employment, seasonal employment. Sorry, the business. Yeah, it's global talk. Well, especially when we have investments, grants that come in. Investments require a return on that investment. Team positive investment. Thank you.
All right, so I have, as I said, a certificate to present to the Trail Stewardship Committee. I'm going to read it now while I've got the microphone, because if I'm up there, you won't hear it online. So the Township of Selwyn presents the certificate to Lakefield Trail Stewardship Committee. We extend our sincere gratitude to the Lakefield Trail Stewardship Committee for 24 years of exceptional stewardship and vision. Your efforts have shaped a trail network that continues to enrich the lives of residents and visitors alike. Thank you. If you'd like to come forward with your group that are here and rest of council. Sure. Now, before we leave this subject, and have the motion to receive the presentation, do you need a motion from council to work on, or look at the terms of reference to come back with a report to see how we, move forward?
Yeah, for sure. If you'd like, we'll do it anyway, but if you'd like to have a resolution to formalize that, for sure.
All right, so, Mr. Henry? Say something? All right, Deputy Mayor Black's moving the motion. Counselor Henry is seconding it. All in favor? Oh,
Discussion.
okay.
Thank you. Yes, and I think it has to go beyond the Lakefield Trail. I think it needs to include all of our volunteer groups, as a broad spectrum. Move forward. This morning I was, discussing, the grants and money that were spent in, Young's Point. And I've got local residents and business owners coming forward asking why they have to spend so much money. Need to put
Yeah, I think right now, we're dealing with a situation where we have a group that are passing, they're are retiring. Thank you. And so I think we should deal with that particular thing. If we want to broaden it, I think it will water down what we're trying to accomplish unless, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. No, I think, yeah, we're very specific to this agreement and we need to know the logistics and the legal aspects of terminating the agreement or whatever. So I think that's a separate report,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And then moving forward, as I said, I think the township needs to look at a strategic direction around all of these groups because they're all struggling with volunteers and financial issues. That's a separate, I think a separate motion down the road.
That's right.
I agree. What I would like to add to, I don't even hear wording to a motion, but what I would like to ask is that when staff is putting this report back to us about how we are going to move forward, how the township is going to move forward with doing the work that this committee has been doing, that it communicate with those who have already said that they are going to try to continue with the committee. There are people in the village who have spoken with me who said they wish to carry on. They won't be able to carry on in the way that it was done before. And that, I think, is what the staff report is going to be saying. So perhaps those people from the village who are wanting to carry on can contact the township office and say that they wish to be part of this conversation and that community engagement takes place. So it's not communication from staff to council and then a communication from this community group to council, that there was communication between township staff and the people in the village who wish to carry on, and then that report.
So you're suggesting that consulting with the people who are still engaged with the Lakefield Trail Stewardship Committee be contacted and.
Precisely. And the only way that the staff will know who those people are is those people to contact staff and say, please speak to us.
Through you, Mayor, just for clarification, so I see there's two different things here. One is
Yes.
the fiduciary responsibility of the organization. I understand that's coming to an end. But there will be a Lakefield Trail group that will want to work on the trail. So again, my question is the terms of reference and the legal obligations of the stewardship committee is what's being terminated from what I understand, and the township. Can you correct me there if I'm wrong?
Well, yeah, I'll try and help you out a bit through you, Madam Mayor. So there really is not an agreement in place with the stewardship committee. It's a committee. and it's done some work on behalf of the township to help maintain the trail. So there isn't an agreement that's coming to an end. Any funds that were, there may have been some grants through the township that supported the trail. There was some fundraising that was done through, the committee. All of those funds have, been expended through the township. So there's no fiduciary responsibility on behalf of the committee, that's going away.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, and I think in terms of, we have heard, and I'm sure that Mike has some of the contact information for some of the folks who do want to carry on. And for sure, if we had a sense of those folks who would like to continue, that's really going to be helpful for us to understand who those people are, how many of those people there are, and what types of activities they want to partake in, right? So I think that would be very helpful, and for sure, folks can reach out to us. And again, I think Mike would have some of that contact information. So we'll work our way through that process.
All right, so we have the motion before us. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you again. All right, we are now going to go to Tom Unruh to talk to us about Phragmites from the Kawartha Land Trust.
Hello.
Hi.
I believe there's a presentation to come on.
Okay.
So I'll just get started though. Thanks very much for the opportunity to be here. I send my regrets from Terry Reese, who is from the Ontario Phragmites Action Program. He's the Eastern Ontario coordinator, or Central Ontario coordinator. And I let him off the hook, to be honest. Want to have to drag him around to all of these delegations. He's a busy guy, and I thought I could handle it myself. So Terry sends this with that. So let's see if I can do this. There we go. Oh. Maybe you need to full screen that in order to. There we go. Sounds like we're a little bit behind schedule here, so I'll just try to zoom through the impacts of Phragmites. People have probably been hearing about this for quite a while, and I'll just sum it up by saying people call it Ontario's worst invasive plant. So that tells us maybe we should do something about that. And thankfully, in 2024, the province of Ontario said, yeah, let's do that. We'll invest $11 million in a coordinated action program to address Phragmites across Ontario. And next slide. Okay. Okay, I did it. And one of their approaches, which I think is very wise, is to coordinate these Phragmites management area working groups. And so to move from what they call random acts of stewardship, trying to address Phragmites, to a more coordinated landscape approach. And so they approached Kawartha Land Trust as a sort of convener and as a lead to this initiative. And so I am taking on the role of the convener of the Kawartha's Phragmites management area working group. Next slide. We're cursed today. And so we've had 15 land managers at 2 meetings so far in 2025. And I'm really focusing in here on land managers, so roads departments, infrastructure, conservation areas, protected land managers. As we just heard from the last slide, there's a lot of volunteers who are engaged in a lot of different type of work, and I wanted to start with the folks who had budgets, not who are going to ask for more volunteer labor on this effort. So there are some of those people. So our study area for our working group is Peterborough County and City of Kawartha Lakes, and again, I'm sort of lead convener. And our main goal is to apply to the 2026 work from the Ontario Phragmites Action Program to their coordinated effort grant, which is a $50,000 grant matched 1-to-1 by the province, or by the province and then by contributors. And our purpose here is to take action on controlling Phragmites in priority locations to share knowledge and resources about Phragmites on the landscape and to address capacity gaps in the region related to planning and deployment of control for Phragmites. We're seeing a lot of great results from getting these people together, a lot of reduced duplication already, and a lot of shared resources when you get these land managers together talking about it, very good shared interest. We've put together our action plan for 2026. So we've identified priority roadside patches across the different townships in the region. We've identified areas on public and conservation land that we know are ready that we control. And then we've made plans for monitoring areas where we're not sure what's out there. So we're going. And the question that I have today is, does Selwyn Township want to join an application for 2026 coordinate action through this grant? And I'll tell you a little bit about that. So based on those three categories, I sort of have opportunities for collaboration from Selwyn. The first is in roads. So I'll tell you what we know about roadside Phragmites so far. So between Peterborough County and Fourth Land Trust this year, we've undertaken presence absence surveys along all of the roads in Peterborough County. So this is a completely comprehensive review of how much Phragmites is along the roadsides. And this is sort of the first of its kind to have this information in such a good comprehensive picture. So everybody sort of says, well, Phragmites is everywhere, but now we actually know exactly where it is. And then from there, we can say by township or by other sort of operating unit, if we're in the city of Kawartha Lakes, how much Phragmites do we have along the roadsides? And then we can triage that down to say, well, let's control it here. And so in Selwyn, between the county roads and the township roads, there are 242 locations of Phragmites and approximately 98,000 meters squared. That's like within the roadside sort of right of way, and then slightly along into the outside of that. So actually, if you look at the data between all the different townships, you're about mid-range, not the worst, not the easiest to deal with. You know, and to do all this roadside spraying, we've been working with the county operations manager who manages noxious weeds on behalf of the townships. So she's contracted folks to do this kind of spraying before, so she has estimations on the cost. So we have here the estimated cost of controlling all of those populations in the top lines across all of the roads in Selwyn, both county and township. So that's about $19,053. A small amount of that, if you were to sort of take a triaging and priority approach, I think we could get to about $3,000 of work on township roads that would have a positive impact on important features next to those roads. So probably we're not going to next year for the first time ever control $20,000 worth of Phragmites. So let's find the most important parts and control them. Next opportunity to work together is on the Selwyn Parks and boat launches and public land that is owned by Selwyn, where we know that there's some Phragmites already. And so in talking with Lily, your staff, who's sustainability coordinator, is that the right? She identified that in fact Selwyn is already had already submitted a fund to control Phragmites at the sewage lagoon. And so we're going to put that one back in this application because it's a known population on the public lands that you left already. But I think a second action that we can undertake together in 2026 is that the working group identified that not every land manager has the capacity to run around and do this very intentional presence absence survey on their own lands. And it would be a lot more effective and efficient if we were to centralize a Phragmites monitoring staff person with summer employment. And that person works on behalf of all members who join in on the 2026 grant. So not every organization has to develop their internal capacity. We share central resources. So we'll be hiring that person next year if we're successful in this grant. And we invite your parks department to say, here are our lands, go and look at them. Long story short, this is we're looking for a contribution from Selwyn Township in order to undertake this work, and we would be leveraging any contribution that Selwyn makes one-to-one through the application of the Ontario Phragmites Action Program. I've summarized the request, the total cost of the work that I just described, and the request to Selwyn to undertake that work. The timeline for the grant is that we do need to submit by the end of this week an interim proposal to the granting agency. And then by January, they would like that to be finalized, complete. And so I'm today asking which way the wind is blowing. Is this something that Sunderland Township is interested in contributing to? And then by January, I'll sort of need to lock in our contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we do have a recommendation in front of us today to receive your presentation and to have $3,000 be included in the 2026 operations budget for council's consideration, funded from the Sustainability Reserve and Lakefield sewer rates to support Phragmites management on identified locations on township road allowances and the sewage lagoon, subject to confirmation that the management method for the sewage lagoon meets township requirements. I don't know if council is prepared to support this. Councilor Boyko.
I will move the motion so that we can discuss it if we can get a seconder, but I would
Deputy Mayor Black is seconding it. Yes.
there we go. And so the question that I have through you, Mayor, is in terms of time, is this two things? Is this eradication? We're going to eventually eradicate this noxious weed, or is it we will never win this war? We are going to control it. And so that's the first question, which will lead to my second.
Yeah, it's the latter. Controlling Phragmites in high priority locations is the approach that's being recommended essentially.
Right.
So keep it out of the best wetlands we have, keep it out of the infrastructure that we like the most, and keep it out of our public areas, which can affect the aesthetic or recreational value of the spaces.
Okay, which leads to my second follow-up, if I could, through you, Mayor Sanis. So if we are never going to eradicate this, we're going to control it. Is this something that we are going to be looking at then going forward for years to come?
I mean, currently we're doing nothing, or maybe not nothing, but very little. And so if we get the ball rolling and we get started and the Ontario government continues to support this work, then I think it will need to continue.
For years, we're never going to really win this war.
Probably not.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Just so you know, some people use that stuff for decorations. Councilor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sanis. Thanks, Don, for the presentation. I'm just curious, with invasive plants as the Phragmites, I can order seeds online. I can go to our local greenhouses and buy Sazorna plants. So if they're being marketed and sold openly, I don't know how this has been something we're going to accomplish successfully, considering that each stock produces what 500 to 2,000 seeds. I'm just wondering where this program would start to actually have an impact. That field of them that was burning probably would have been best to let burn. Not to be too simple, but it would have gotten rid of a lot more of it. So if I can have it, I look at something and say it's pretty. Gee, I gotta have that. My neighbors have it. Yeah, we're tearing them up in the ditch. I don't know how successful the program would be, or if this is the right approach to start it.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So what you're talking about is called taking an integrated pest management approach. So you're looking at all sorts of different avenues for controlling a known pest on the landscape. Working with landscaping agencies, doing education, clean equipment protocols, eradication in priority areas. There's a vast number of approaches that are required to be effective. I assume that the $11 million contribution from the province looks at making contributions to different areas of integrated pest management, and that the effort that land managers can take is primarily in the control of high priority areas, given the resources that they have. So yes, you're absolutely pointing at the correct approach. You need to do a lot of different things. The group that I'm convening is focused on one subset of the solution.
Councilor Cruz.
Through you, thanks. Also, I support this. There's $3,000 is a drop in the bucket, but it's a good place to start.
I will say the money that the province has put forward is a huge step forward. I mean, Phragmites has been in the Invasive Species Act forever, and this is really the first step they're clearly taking, but they are offloading it to national and provincial organizations to be the middlemen. So we do have to, like, thank you for doing that, because otherwise we're not stepping up and doing it. That being said, I do want to also note that other ministries have taken an approach to this. The Ministry of Transportation has really tried to work with Phragmites, and they have been successful, but then we build more highways and they keep spreading. Farmers are encouraged to take on these programs. They're given grant money. They can do what they do, but they're only, to what extent they can do it. So this work has been going on for a long time, but municipalities, there's 444 of us. So like, we do put in the effort, we'll see change. That being said, my question here is, how do we monitor the impacts? That's like the follow-up to John's question is, we're going to do the work. How are we going to monitor and have reporting back to us to see where our money's going?
Thank you. That's a great question. I'm sure you're in there. I think that what attracted me to putting my effort into this, is I don't like doing things that don't have positive outcomes, is that this is the first time that I'm seeing the ball really get rolling on this in a coordinated approach, with a coordinated approach, and that's very valuable. And working with Jenna Humphrey at the county, who does the noxious weeds management for the area, I was very impressed with her diligent approach to updating their system of control and monitoring. And I think that she's established, her and her team have established a really good protocol there that can inform success monitoring. And I think without that, I would have been personally reluctant to put any time behind this because of the exact question you asked. But I think we're in a good position now because of the work that she's put into to that system for other noxious weeds.
I will also say that money that the province has put forward to, like, this is only one stream. There's two funding streams. The other is for all other invasives. And we do have local contacts, Colin Cassins with the Turtle Trauma Center, or Turtle Conservation Center, that's what they called. And he's with the Invasive Species Center of Ontario, like local, does the work. So there's other partnerships to have here beyond Phragmites, but I think this is an important first step because our roadways are like, they're the corridor, right? We're going to keep, if we don't do it, it's going to keep spreading north. So especially with development. So I do think that we're important players in this, even if it's $3,000 really is nothing in the large comparison of the destructive costs of this plant. So yeah. And the province too, I will say, has in regards to ornamental plants, that is between them and their stakeholders, such as Home Depot and such. So consider talking to Home Depot yourself to put pressure there.
Yep.
Thank you, through Mayor. Thanks for the presentation, Tom. And sorry about our Commodore 64 computer system. Doesn't quite meet the standard for presentations. I even remember that was the first computer system. I think we all own one. Yeah, I think it's been said that public education, until I saw the first presentation at County Council about a year ago, I didn't realize that it was an invasive species. Neither did my wife, who was using it in baskets and no longer uses it in baskets. So I think that's is a key moving forward with, again, the spread, the unnecessary spread of it as well. You know, it's the new purple loosestrife was the big one a number of years ago that needed to be managed, and you still see it out there. You don't see it in the numbers clearly, but it's still out there. My question is, what percentage of the Phragmites is on private land? We've talked about, you see most of it in the ditches because there's lots of water there for them and so on. But what percentage do you think, and I know you talked about a student program going around, what percentage of it is actually on private property? Because we can do everything we want in the ditches and within the road allowance, but if we don't manage it beyond that, it just will keep spreading back into the ditches. So what's your thoughts there?
Through you, Madam Mayor. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I will say that our staff person who drove around, one of their fields on the mapping system that they had was, does this patch, is it isolated to the road right away? a road allowance, or does it extend beyond the, and so that data would be available. They didn't stop for patches that weren't also on the road right away. That is where they wanted to originate. So I could, we would have that. And in fact, that's one of our sort of first triaging approaches, is to say, well, the simplest act of control is one that requires permission from a single stakeholder. And so we can, our first approach or first pass of this is to isolate those patches that are just on the road from right to left. And then because, going into private land well beyond that, it's a real coordinated effort that I actually think I'm very optimistic is achievable. But we need to show momentum behind the original action and get people who are early adopters before we can start saying, okay, private land, now it's time for you to do your part.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through Mayor Senes. My burn it all comment aside, we did have a presentation by in front of council actually about a year and a half ago by our insurance provider Intact, and having fragmites going on municipal property and on private property. There's some insurance claims. It can promote flooding, promote water retention, can cause a lot of different problems. So that's another thing that has to be considered during the educational process moving forward. Is for people or whoever sued by Home Depot today, but oh well, we'll let Intact take that up for us with our insurance. The education wants to be large as well, as I'm sure if it can impact the municipalities' insurance policy, it could probably impact them as well. Intact or any insurance company do whatever they have.
We have this recommendation before us. Is there someone that is willing to get? Yeah. Oh, okay. We've had such a long conversation. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry Rasmussen.
And thank you for your patience waiting through our entire meeting to make your presentation.
You know what? I really don't mind. These meetings are always interesting. I always learn something. Hopefully I can learn how to use this. All right, Mayor, council, staff, members of the community, thank you very much for the opportunity for us to introduce our Lily Lake Energy Storage Project and to request a municipal support resolution for this project. For this presentation, I want to talk a little bit about Nexus, who we are, what we plan on doing, our project, with a high-level overview. Per and his staff put together a great technical report on this. So what I really want to focus on is the consultation we've done today. So what we've done, the questions, comments, concerns we've received, how we're planning on addressing them, and then the consultation we hope to do in the future. So right away, Nexus Energy, we're a Canadian company based out of Toronto. We've been in business for over 10 years, started out doing energy trading and price risk management. Now we're moving into project development. Our philosophy is to and goals to be long-term owner operators. So what we build, we intend to, follow those life cycle. And, along that lines is, the relationships we build during this is very important, which is why, I'm going to focus a lot on consultation practice. We intend to be long-term members of the community and want to do this. So our project, the Lily Lake Storage Project, a bit of a map after this, but it's located just on Lily Lake Road, just a little bit west of the Peterborough Utility Solar Farm. So it's a 10 megawatt, 80 megawatt hour project. So what that means is, it can store enough energy to power roughly 2,000 homes for about 8 hours at a time on full charge. To do this, we're going to need 20 to 30 modular containers, closer to 20 than 30 probably. And these are, each container is about half the size of a 40-foot shipping container. And it'll occupy about 1 acre. I'll talk a little bit more about the construction of it, but fire detection and suppression is very important to us. So we're going to use best-in-class systems. We're also going to use a technology called lithium ion ferrophosphate. It's a lithium ion chemistry that is very resistant to thermal runaway. One of the important features. So this is our proposed site plan as it is right now. So these are our back about. So So. Possible, so. So the impacts and benefits will occur locally to the local distribution system. So, one thing I really like with the site is it's not very visible. So this is a roadside view. Our project will be on the left of this. It's very well screened. So, maybe during midwinter, you might be able to catch a glimpse of it as you drive by, but it's going to be very unobtrusive and very difficult to see. So, I think it's important to just take a little bit of a step back because I get a lot of questions of why did you pick this site or why didn't you pick another site and go somewhere else? So, when we're doing a site selection process, what we did here is, looking at a high level, there are millions of parcels in Ontario, and you narrow it down to where, parcels that have access or are close to, parts of the grid, substations and lines, you get down to hundreds of thousands. When you get down to substations and that can support a project like this, you get down to tens of thousands. At that point, you need to pick a substation you want to target. If you do, look at all the parcels attached to that, you get into that you're in the hundreds, maybe 1,000 if it's a very big substation. But then when you look at, parcel size, density, like there's a lot around it, environmental constraints, zoning issues, and that, we're really looking down on maybe 2 to 3 dozen parcels that could potentially be viable. Then when we go to landowners, their land may be other uses, or they have other plans for it, or they're just not interested. We're lucky if we get that case scenario, 2 to 3 potential parcels per substation. So, it's a very difficult process and it takes a lot. So, if we didn't pick another parcel, it's probably because it didn't meet the screening requirements. So just back to our project in particular, this is where we're at. So we had our public open house on October 27th. If council and the town are supportive of this project, we're going to give us a municipal support resolution. Then we'll be bidding into the provincial RFP run by the IESO on December 18th. And then if we're successful, we'll get results back roughly June of next year. And then we'll come back to the town to do all the official permitting approvals, as well as any federal, provincial approvals that are required. And then we're likely to start construction sometime in 2029 to be operational for our working service date. So it's a long-term project, and we've still got lots to do. So I want to talk now about the consultation. Being a long-term owner and operator, this is going to be very important for us. So what we've done so far is before we even acquired any landers' interests, our members of our team came and met with members of the township to get an understanding of their thoughts on this type of project and any requirements that they may need. So that was held in May of 2025. We took some of that feedback. We went out, we acquired an interest in this land. And then we came back to the township for a formal pre-consultation meeting, which is held with staff as well as county staff, the Tonawee conservation staff, some members of the First Nations. Got a lot of really good feedback from them, as well as a list of adjacent landowners. So on September 26th, we sent out notices to landowners, township, county, other agencies, First Nations, as well as publishing an ad in the Peterborough Examiner, advertising our open house, which was held on October 27th. That was held. We had a total of 7 people attend that, and we received 3 comment sheets at the event and no other further comments since then. So, I want to go into the comments we received. I think it's very important. These are the questions that people have, and they're pretty common questions, questions I would ask if I had this coming into my community. So, please give me more information on fire suppression. There have been fire incidences with batteries in the past. We've learned a lot from them. But we want to make sure that this risk is minimal at best. So key steps in this is prevention. So our designs are going to meet all relevant standards as well as best practices. So above and beyond the minimum required. We're also choosing a battery chemistry that limits the risk of thermal runaway. And all of our batteries are monitored and pulled down an individual cell. And an individual cell is the same as a laptop sized battery. So at any one time, our monitoring center can figure out what's going on at any individual cell. So, prevention is always the best method, but we want to be prepared for other stuff. So detection, every container we have here will have duplicate heat detectors, smoke detectors, and combustible gas detectors. So backups in case one fails, so we always know what's going on. If an incident is detected, then it goes into suppression mode. So first of all, if I heat or fire event is determined, it will trigger off an aerosol system, to try and suppress any fire that's caused by any sort of electrical short of that. If it continues, then water-based system will activate. In any event, if there's any sort of an incident with a fire or other, we'll have a 24/7 monitoring center, which will be able to respond. If they can deal with it remotely, they will. If not, they will dispatch a team. And if there's a serious event, then we'll notify the Selwyn Fire Department. But there's a lot of planning. We've had initial conversation with them, but we'd work together to, really bolster and put together plans for getting out if there's a problem. Next, comment we had proximity to wetlands. Our facility is located near a wetland, further away from it is part of a potentially significant wetland. We've designed a facility so far that's about a minimum 30-meter setback from this wetland. But we'll also be, as part of the development, working with both the province and the Autonomy Conservation Authority to map out this wetland, confirm that it's where it is, that we have proper setbacks and mitigation measures in place, so that we're not having any sort of an impact with them. Next, rural wells. A lot of wells in the township. It's a good concern. But our site is very small. Any sort of disturbance is going to be minimal. Most of our disturbance is going to be in the construction of roads and pads for the battery systems, as well as some trenching for the cable. But as part of this, we're going to put together a stormwater management plan, which will help, which will mitigate any construction impacts, as well as addressing the operational impacts. One of the very common concerns I've gotten in previous projects, solar, wind, and whatever, that how will this affect my property value and my ability to sell? Again, a concern I would have probably there. But this project is very small, very well screened with existing vegetation. Once it's operational, it'll be hard to tell it's there. Plus, there's also some other facilities in the area that are of similar nature, the solar farm, transmission lines, substation. So we're not expecting to have any impacts. I'm not aware of any studies that have been done on battery energy storage systems and property values in particular. There have been multiple large-scale property value studies for wind and solar, a lot of them in the US, and most of them have shown that there's very minimal impact to property values, and any of those are short-term in nature. So we don't expect this to be a problem, but with everything, we are happy to have discussions with you. Which brings us to noise. Noise again is another concern. These projects aren't particularly noisy, but every container has a big HVAC system, right? A ton already. Oh my gosh. So summary here, we don't expect any noise, but we will completely large scale noise stuff. I'm going to stop here as I've used my time. Unless you'd like me to continue, I've only got a couple more slides. I think there's 2 or 3 slides left. Thank you. So we will complete a formal noise study as part of our project. And if there are any concerns, either during construction or operation, we will work with the local landowners who are impacted, as well as the town, to put in mitigation measures to make sure that does. Last 2 quick questions, fire potential and land contamination. So talked a bit about fire already. There's very little in this type of battery chemistry that could be potentially hazardous. But I do want to point out, New York State had 3 battery fires in 2023. A lot was learned from that, but what they did is it did extensive air, water, and soil testing during and after the events. And of all the samples they took at all fires, they didn't find any harmful levels of toxins in one of the samples. Last question we had: new technology not able to fully assess the long-term risk. Not entirely true, but I understand that it seems new. Lithium batteries have been around for over 25 years now. A lot has been learned, a lot of new technology. And this type of use of it has been around for 10 years. Right now, there's over 300 utility scale, usually much larger than this facility, in operation safely across North America, and a couple thousand over worldwide. So it's, it's still in the early stages, but not new. We've learned a lot. I also encourage that if you have an interest in fire safety, New York State, in response to the 2023 battery fires, put together a working group that made a lot of really great recommendations on fire safety and how to prevent it and how to deal with it. So just last slide I'll talk about is future consultations. So we intend to consult with Town of Selwyn, from now until the end of the project. Same with the County of Peterborough. Then we'll deal with we'll have conversations with provincial and federal agencies if needed. autonomy conservation, as well as ongoing conversations with the First Nations. And we also hope to have a couple other public houses. Thank you very much for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sanis. With all the reference to fire safety, fire concerns, have you discussed things with our fire chief Joplin and his team?
I did have a conversation with him. He said he's pretty familiar with these conversations and they're pretty well prepared for it, but I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm happy to have ongoing conversations at any time.
Thank you. And follow up through you, Mayor Sanis. Comments on property values not going down. So in 20 years from now, we did approve your project and property values do go down. Who's on the tab for it? Future council or?
Honestly, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not sure who's liable for that. But our project lifespan is anticipated 20 years. As part of our submission, we put together a decommissioning plan and we're willing to back that with a decommissioning bond so that if for some reason we go out of business or we just try to walk away from the project, which I wouldn't do, but I can't predict the future, that there will be resources here to remove and restore the project. So, worst case scenario, 20 years from now, everything is taken out, restored back to normal. And at that point, there really should not be issues with it having.
Thank you. And what are you going to do about Phragmites on the property?
Gee, you know what? That was actually a really good thing. And I think what we're gonna do is as part of our construction plan, once we select an EPZ contractor, is we'll have an invasive species clause where they'll have to use the industry best practices to manage the risk of spreading.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through your worship. Thanks for the presentation. I was at the open house and there was a lot of questions to me around the conservation area. And the 30-meter setback being enough. I know in your presentation you said that you're going to have Orca look at to make sure the boundary is where the boundary appears to be in the current mapping, but that mapping changes on a regular basis. So I think that's an important step forward. You mentioned pads in your presentation for the units.
Yes.
Is there a retention strategy to make sure nothing leaves the site in case there's a lot of water? With fuel depots, there's often, they have to put a perimeter border that would prevent any liquids from leaving the site. Is that the case here? Because I think the big concern, obviously, if there is any, it's a downward slope to the conservation area, the conserved area, the EP area. And so everything would naturally flow in that direction. Is there a containment system put around the whole compound that would prevent the water or whatever fire suppressant is used from leaving the site itself?
Yeah, so what we'll do as part of that, we'll incorporate that into our stormwater management plan. So it'll be designed in such a way as to address emergency events as well as day-to-day events. So what I would envision is maybe not a berm around it, but having a stormwater management pond that will contain stuff flowing, so we can have it address it before it goes off. So.
Follow up, yeah. So are you purchasing this whole property? Because I noticed the entranceway is also on the other side of the house.
No, we have an option to lease. So what we'll be doing, we'll be leasing a portion of the site, and the landowner will have to lease the rest of the site.
So with respect to a stormwater pond, that's not in your plan right now? I don't see a stormwater pond.
We haven't done the full design. That was
Okay.
part of the design. When we come back, assuming we get not our resolution council and or the contract, as part of our submission to the town for approval, we'll have a more detailed stormwater management plan for that.
And that would be further away from the EP area.
Yeah. Our intent is to mimic that. We have a fair bit of leeway within our use boundary,
Okay,
so we can move some things around. We're just trying to be respectful.
okay, thank you.
Through you, so thanks. Yeah, with the benefits slide, we didn't get too into detail on that. I'm just curious what we've had, like, I can't remember last time we had this, but we had three submissions come forward. And they all talked about job opportunities, and realistically, when we got down to nickel and diming it, there was like one person was gonna be hired at each site. So what is the job opportunities for this under your project?
Yeah, so, job creation is not gonna be one of the major benefits of this, just to be totally upfront. But during construction, we're gonna have 4 to 6 months of active construction. So some of that will be, it's gonna be done under an EPC contract. So generally under those contracts, there is the higher local to do a lot of the civil works, the foundations, roads and all that. And we're expecting 20 to 30 jobs over that 4 to 6 months. As local jobs, there'll be, jobs that get contracts for that could be local electricians use. For operations and maintenance, we will most likely hire that out. So there'll be a local contract within the region. Most of the O&M providers like to have people within less than 100 kilometers from the site. I can't guarantee it's going to be in the town. But an interesting thing with this project and all other clean energy projects right now is there's an investment tax credit from the federal government. That has requirements for not necessarily local, but it does have requirements for apprenticeship programs. And so as part of this, our contract will be required to provide apprenticeship opportunities during the construction of this project.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify too, or the first one under the tax revenue, it says with minimal demand on local services. Can you just expand on that?
Yeah. Totally. So our project's not requiring any use of municipal services much beyond, the development application of our fees will cover that, and the fire department. So we're not adding new pupils to schools. We're not adding new roads, new demand on roads beyond the construction period. Sewer, water, none of that requirements. So, it's going to create additional tax revenue because we can tax that industrial base at a much higher rate than the current land. It's going to contribute back, and what demand we would have would be from the fire department.
All right, so we do have a report from our planner, Per Lumberg, to do with this. So if you'd like to present the report, and if you want, you can sit down right now and you back for other questions.
Let's just stand to the top.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. My report, I don't think adds too much to what Terry's already presented, but I can provide a brief overview of the analysis in my report. Essentially, the preamble outlines what Terry's already sort of outlined this is a process under the IESO in order to obtain a municipal support resolution, which is necessary for Nexus to submit along with their application to be awarded a potential contract to deliver the proposed service at 277 Lakefield Road. They have followed our protocol that we implemented earlier this summer. So we're at the presentation stage of the proponent in front of council. We do have a number of submissions that council had access to. Some of those preliminary investigations are listed in my report. At present time, the property is considered rural in our official plan. So just from a planning analysis standpoint, these are not prime agricultural lands. However, that will be changing with our new official plan. So there's a little bit of uncertainty there as to what approach to take, but my analysis in the report to council today is strictly as rural lands because we really have no idea when our new official plan will be forthcoming. So as far as rural lands permissions go, planning policy would be supportive of this type of proposal at the proposed location. Some additional work would be needed through what's called an agricultural impact assessment once the change to prime agricultural lands occurs in our new official plan. And the way I envision it, if that happened, and this gets into the IESO rules on the side, so I'm not an expert on that as to, okay, well, let's say the new OP drops. I would imagine Nexus would come back to us for a revised support resolution if you did indeed support this today. Then reflecting that this is prime agricultural lands and the decision would be for council again to support or not. the proposal as going on prime agricultural lands. So I've limited my report to strictly looking at it as a rural piece of property with no prime agricultural concern. I'm a little reluctant in this case to provide a recommendation. So you can see it's just, it's up to council to provide direction. This is a support resolution. It's not a development application. So I'm not putting forth a staff recommendation either way on this one. This has more, I feel like, to do with council's general take on the community's viewpoint on this type of development in order to consider not only the policy perspective that's presented in my report, but the general community support for this type of development. So that's why I think our staff recommendation is written the way it is in light of that. Again, there'll be additional reports, as Terry mentioned, at the development approval stage. Whether or not Planning Act approvals applied depends on really whether these are structures. At this point in time, they would be considered equipment because they're not, you can't enter them. They're housed, they're sealed, right? There are some battery energy storage systems that actually have a maintenance door. You can go inside them. At that point, it becomes a structure, and that becomes a little bit different in terms of approval process. So in that regard, regardless, what we may be resorting to is what we would term a development agreement under the Municipal Act to address municipal concerns around the development of the project and siting of it, right? So in support of either a Planning Act approval or sort of a development agreement, there'd be some additional reports Terry touched on that we would review and have our municipal engineers review as needed. Some of those would be stormwater management, archaeological assessment, environmental impact study. Conservation Authority would be involved in that in regard to the hazard lands and the wetland that was you're aware of. Noise impact, traffic study, the decommissioning plan, the emergency response plan, just an overall site plan, of course, we'd be reviewing, as well as a grading plan. The proponent has, through their report submissions, recommended what they call an arc flash study. Terry may be able to, I don't know what that all entails or what that's for, but you may be able to enlighten us a bit more. And then a greenhouse gas benefit statement, and then more of a finalized construction operation that we can review. Ultimately, in the end, those studies would be reviewed at the development approval stage, and we would come forth again to council to have that development agreement signed on the dotted line for review.
Okay, so there's still quite there's a process that will have to be gone through, even if we give a municipal resolution to carry forward. Up to date, proponent has met all the criteria, and let's deal with. Do you have a question up here? Anybody have a question up here? All right, let's deal with the recommendation that is in our agenda that says that we received the information that PEAR has provided, and that we will provide direction with respect to the issuance of the municipal support resolution. So we're not saying in this recommendation that we are going to do it or not, just that we'll provide direction. So can I get someone to move that? Councillor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black. All in favor? That is carried. And now I'll come back to council. Yeah.
Sorry, Mayor, just to be clear, it's the recommendation in the reports.
In the
Exhibit A?
in our, it's PEAR's recommendation 2D. That was the wording that I read.
So there is a document.
We're net now. I'm coming to the point where I'm asking council, are you willing to provide a
Okay.
resolution?
Okay.
And the resolution that is, am I getting this right? The resolution that's included with your reports here, PEAR, is the one we would be approving, the draft resolution?
So Terry supplied us with some additional details, I think, in the final form that will need to be provided to Nexus should you approve it. But the general wording is that IESO formatted resolution. The IESO has provided that to municipalities via their website. So I filled it in. Terry's filled that in with some additional PIN information, like legal description for the parcel. However, yes, that generally that draft resolution is the format of what would be provided to Nexus should you support the request.
Thank you very much, Councillor Henry.
Sorry, I'm willing to move that motion.
All right, moved by Councillor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black. All in favor? Question? No? That is carried. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
And I don't think we had a resolution to receive his report, or was that part of PAIR?
I think that would be part of
Okay,
pairs. Thank you.
good. Just want to make sure I'm dotting all the i's. All right. Thank you very much. Question period. Do we have any questions come forward, Madam Clerk?
No questions.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Brian Bird. Ice storm report.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. As council will recall, this report was requested through resolution back in April of this year. The report before you is broken down into 3 general sections. The first section is expenses incurred because of the March 2025 ice storm. The second section is recommendations that departments have to manage
Excuse me.
future incidents. And the third section is an update to the township's emergency information plan. There's quite a bit to this report. It's 8 pages long. So perhaps rather than going through each metric and individual recommendation, we could just move to council's questions and I can answer them best as I can.
Right. So, are there any questions of Brian? Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor. Just one quick question. The only area that I wasn't 100% sure was the paid overtime only eligible. Can you explain that? I read it a couple of times. I'm not 100% on that. Some of it is and some of it isn't.
Through you, Mayor. So under the township's municipal ice storm assistance application, the criteria that the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing had put forward was that only overtime that was incurred in relation to the ice storm was eligible. So regular staff wages, be it municipal officers, firefighters, et cetera, it would not be eligible under the program. And we would not have any way under our current processes of tracking and quantifying what those total expenses would be. Of course, administrative staff and customer service staff were fielding questions as recently as this past week regarding the ice storm. So it just was not a metric that we had available. What was provided in the report is the submission to MISA, and that was the overtime that was incurred directly because of the ice storm.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Cool. First? Yeah, your hand up first.
Thank you, through you. I'm just curious, there's a sentence in here and I just copied and pasted. Recommendations that were not submitted as part of the 2026 capital budget will be submitted in years to come or as funding opportunities present themselves. Can you give us like a highlight into what those are?
Yes, through you, Mayor. Let me just refer to the actual page that has the recommendations. So starting on, apologies, page number 4, there are recommendations that the Municipal Emergency Control Group and members of staff had to manage future incidents. Several of those have been submitted as part of the 2026 capital budget, transfer switches at the Bridgenorth Community Hall and the Ennismore Curling Club. Other projects that we would endeavor to undertake would be, the installation of a permanent fixed generator at each of the fire halls, the installation of an electronic message board at the Smith landfill. Those are projects that have quite an expensive price tag attached to them, and we didn't include them in this year's budget. What we would look to do is seek provincial or federal grants for those as they present themselves, or submit them in future capital budgets.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Senes. Brad, thank you for the report. As one of my colleagues referred to it as my laundry list previously in my motion. You pretty much nailed all of it. Thank you. With the budget, the list of expenses so far, Thank you for everything they've been able to calculate. I know that we might almost double that number, so much what Adam and his crew is still doing along the roadways. And now you've made it to the 15th line, but you still got a few more to go with, the brush off the road. We're not out of the woods yet. Again, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Boyko?
Thank you through you, Mayor Sanis. And yes, thank you for this report. I think it's terrific. I go to the communications plan. And I agree the communications needs work, and everybody does. It says that incorporate best practices based on lessons learned. What were some of the lessons that we learned? So what are some of the things that are going to be coming forward in Q1 of 2026 based on what lessons did we learn from the ice storm with respect to communications?
Through you, Mayor. One in particular was, I would say, the consistency amongst different municipalities, the city and other local municipalities with messaging to their community members. Customer service staff here at the township received a lot of questions regarding perhaps practices or levels of service that are being provided by other local municipalities or the city that just were not feasible for us here at the township. It was one item that was certainly discussed at the county's ice storm debrief earlier in the spring. So I think there's going to be a county level initiative to ensure that, we're perhaps communicating amongst the municipalities to ensure we're not setting unrealistic expectations for our individual residents. Another best practice that was kind of mentioned in there was through Emergency Management Ontario. So last year, EMO fielded a new website that has a lot of shared resources provincially. So I'm able to go on there and see, for instance, an EIP or emergency information plan that was perhaps developed in Northwestern Ontario. They might have something in there that might be beneficial for us to implement. So we'll be further exploring that website, those other plans and the resources on there, combining those with the lessons learned out of the ice storm, not only our debrief, but the county's debrief, and doing a comprehensive update to our EIP, which is attached to our municipal emergency plan.
Excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Coles?
I found it hidden away in my notes and it goes off of Boyko's question around communication. How long is the survey at the county available?
Through you, I'm not sure. I did look at it. It's about 2.5 pages long, but I would have to go back to the website to see how long it's going to be published for.
I'm just wondering if we can promote that more because I haven't seen it on social media. I could have listed it, but I'm wondering if we can bump our numbers and we can share it more as councillors that way.
Certainly, I think it's something we could promote on our website and through social media just to create awareness to it. And I can certainly circle back with an answer of how long it's going to be available and what other pertinent information is going to be associated from it.
Thank you.
All right, I just wanted to mention that under the old criteria, we would not have been eligible to receive money back for all the expenses we had from the ice storm. And it was as a result of, first of all, Dave Smith getting Doug Ford to come to our county, and the warden, myself, and Mayor Heather Watson having a meeting with Doug Ford and the emergency measures, was it Thompson? Oh, Jill Dunlop, thank you. Yes, and as a result of that meeting, they did change it so that we can actually claim. So it was a really good meeting, and hopefully going forward, that will continue for future emergencies that happen, because we're going to have them, I'm sure. All right, and that was a really good report. Really appreciate it. I'm looking for someone to move the recommendation. Councillor Henry, Councillor Koulis, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Now we move on to Adam Topin.
Through you, Madam Mayor. As you guys are aware, last fall, the county brought a presentation to staff or to council regarding a road rationalization policy. Over the course of the winter, there was 3 roads that both the county and the township agreed in principle upon putting through the road rationalization policy. We looked at Fice Bay Road, Fairburn Street, third line, and then we also looked at Lily Lake Road from Fice Bay Road over to Highway 7. through that course of the winter and the springtime, the county conducted some traffic counts, did some analysis on those areas. We also had operation staff meet with the county, and we kind of fleshed out some operational concerns about some of those streets. But basically, we agreed in principle that Rice Bay Road, which is currently a county road, beyond Rice Bay Marina Road would then become a township road, as well as Lily Lake Road from Rice Bay over to Highway 7 and Fairburn and the third line. So we agreed to those in principle and went through the process. Basically, it's a scoring matrix that the county used. Well, the scoring matrix came back that reinforced those recommendations. So what I'm kind of coming back to council with is just to proceed to the next step in this process, which would be just to go through step 6, which is the development conditions of a transfer. So really looking at the road conditions and assessing if there's any monetary value that we need to change hands with those roads, and then we'll come back to council with a further report, making a recommendation and kind of proceed with those transfers. So at this stage, this isn't committing to anything, it's just committing to step 6. We need to actually do a more detailed assessment of the road conditions, and then we can bring up further report back to council in the future.
Any questions? Councillor Boyko.
So thank you, and for clearing that, because that's how I interpreted what council is being asked to do. So if the report comes back on the road conditions and says this road needs to be fixed, improved before we will take it on, is that the kind of question and give and take will go back and forth with the county?
Through you, Madam Mayor, through the process, like staff would kind of make some of that preamble back and forth with the county, because it'd be kind of tit for tat. There'd be some of our roads that might need to be upgraded. There'd be some of the counties that might need to be upgraded. So we're trying to find a compromise in the middle. If there's any net difference left, then we come back to council with that recommendation and that difference, and then it'll be up to council. We wanted to proceed or not proceed with the transfer based on that time.
Great. So in other words, through your mayor sense, so we don't inherit a road that all of a sudden needs thousands of dollars of work done. Understand. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Blunt.
Thank you, through your worship. The third line, Tower Hill, Fairburn Street one, the red line ends before the intersection at Tower Hill Road, Lily Lake Road, Fairburn. Is that because it's where the city starts?
Through your Madam Mayor, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the city limit.
It would be good to get rid of Lily Lake Road. Even though the county's responsible, like they're going to be working on Tully's Bridge in 2027, and it will be in better condition and wider. So, and honestly, down in Fifes Bay, what's the name of that street that's down there, that they've got a little section where they do the plowing. Can't think of the name of the street. Sorry?
Mary Lynn Drive.
Yes. When I was Smith Ward councillor, I would get phone calls all winter long because plows didn't they didn't do the plowing the way the people liked it. Our guys did it better. And so they complained all the time. So I'll be happy when it's just one rather than sharing. Any
Yeah, through you, Madam
comment?
Mayor, we did look at operational constraints too. So when we looked at Vice Bay Road, we tried to find a delineating line that not only traffic study wise made sense, but operationally made sense for the county plow to be able to turn around and for us to come in and maintain it. And then some of these roads like Vice Bay Road, Third Line and Fairburn, these have been talked about back and forth for years. We recently kind of brought Lily Lake Road to the table based on operational input from our drivers. They're seeing a heavy traffic load based from the Lily Lake subdivision primarily. So once the county gets some traffic counts along there, it definitely supported what our operators.
Thank you. Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, through Mayor Sanis. I'm not sure if the question's for Adam or not. I understand that sometimes my brain works in curious ways. With thinking on this, where we're transferring roads over inside, and we're giving the county so many roads or exchanging. Does this give the county possibly more power to acquire land at Selwyn Township? I don't know. I appreciate the look. I understand that my brain's kind of some days.
No, I don't think so. It's just, it's jurisdiction over the road allowance. It has nothing else to do. Land
Thank you.
acquisition.
I'll leave that rabbit hole alone.
All right, we have the recommendation before us. Would like to move it. Did you move it? Councillor Henry, Deputy Mayor Black, seconding, all in favor. That's carried. Adam, stand by.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you've seen in a couple of work plans and capital projects over the last few years, part of our ICIP grant application, successful grant application, we're doing some refurbishment of the Lakefield standpipe. In anticipation of some of that work next year, we're about 90% done on our detailed design for that project. So we're looking to tender that out this year, but one thing that did come up was the lack of a water meter that's actually at that location. So previously, we'd always kind of estimated the volume of water going into that based on the flow rate. We take 25%, say, of the total flow going into the elevator tank, and we attribute that to the standpipe. What we have realized is that within the standpipe, there is a mixing system that does have a certain requirement for a flow velocity and volume to go through it to work properly. So one of the recommendations the engineer made was that we do incorporate a meter on that system. So what I'd like to do this year is, ahead of us putting that project in for work next year, is actually install that meter chamber and purchase the meter, so we can have that done ahead of time for the subcontractor when they come in to whether it's through the standpipe.
Any questions? Deputy Mayor Black.
Just a definition of standpipe. The tank is not part of the standpipe, that's a separate, so this is a chamber that has the controls for the tank. Is
Nope.
considered the standpipe? No?
Through you, Madam Mayor. A standpipe is a vertical structure that has an entire water column from ground level to the top.
To the top of the tank.
Yep, an elevated tank is a completely elevated bowl. So at our elevated tank on Tower Road, that bowl is filled with water, but the column is not.
Right.
So the entire water system is elevated, where the standpipe is just a complete vertical column of water.
Oh, okay.
So there is a meter, there is a pipe gallery that's associated with the standpipe. There's a little shack there, and below grade, there's a chamber with some piping in it.
Yeah.
There isn't enough room in there to actually put a mag meter in there. Like, we'd need 3 or 4 feet of pipe to put a meter in. So we just don't have the room to actually have to put something inside.
Thank you.
Questions? Seeing none, would like to move it. Councillor Boyko, is that a question or are you moving? All right. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. And now the purchase of the sidewalk. Adam.
Thanks, through you, Madam Mayor. Looking in the 2025 capital budget to do a budget amendment and include the purchase of essentially kind of a car trailer. What we're looking at, we had to review our operations for sidewalk clearing with the addition of the Earl Street sidewalk. The sidewalk extending to Earl Street and Ennismore. So operationally, what we looked at was the challenge of getting our sidewalk plow over there, driving it from Smith Shop versus trailering it. So we've done a little bit of a jockeying, and what we're looking to do is acquire this trailer so that we can actually store it in Ennismore, trailer it to Bridge North to complete the work, and then store it back in Ennismore. So in order to complete that work, we need this smaller two-line trailer.
All right, any questions? Deputy Mayor Black.
I love a new trailer. But is there any opportunity to share trailers with Parks and Rec? Is their equipment is put away for the winter? They have some trailers, or do they store that equipment on the trailer, and so that kind of puts it out of use in the winter time?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, the length of our sidewalk plow, I think, is a 21-foot trailer we need, and we just don't have anything that long. By the time we get the plow on the sidewalk, buggy plus the sander on the back of it, it would just extend it too far beyond any trailer.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Coates.
I just want to clarify too, sorry, the trailer, is the trailer being stored in Ennismore or is it just the sidewalk plower?
We're hopeful, we did some measurements. We're hoping to be able to store the trailer with the plow on it.
I'm imagining there's not enough space, so.
Yeah, it'll be tight, but we think we can get it in there, and then we can just hook onto it to take it in.
Okay, like we're not gonna have to build anything new, just gonna squeak it in there, move shit around.
We can if you want to.
I know that's on the docket. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, would like to move this. Councillor Koulis, seconded by Councillor Boyko, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. Is there anything anyone wants pulled in the consent items? If not, I'm looking for a motion to receive them all. Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councillor Henry, all in favor. It's carried. Thank you. right, is there any other new business? See.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sanis. I just think I'd ask a question of staff. Is there any updates on the EV charging station that's scheduled for Windy Young? Slipped my mind. Someone brought it to my attention.
Yes, through you, we did not actually proceed with an application for the Youngs Point EV station. So I'm sorry, at this point, we don't have a plan to install one in Youngs Point.
No reason to apologize. Probably better not to.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, I need a motion to go into closed. Counselor Coulis, seconded by Counselor Henry, all in favor, that's carried. Are we going into the other room? All right.